Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice. It's a brand new week, the sun's shining bright. A chance to cast your net, step into the light. Life's full of challenges, it's a winding stream. But with Coach Rice, you'll find your dream.
Happy Monday and welcome to Casting the Net, Mondays with Coach Rice, where we care about your mental health and well-being. And today I have a special guest on my show. Super excited about. Her name is Monica Tanner, and she is a relationship coach just like myself. So we're gonna have a great dialogue about the myths that marriages have. So Monica, tell us, where are you from and how did you take a journey on relationships?
Well, I'm originally from Dallas and I grew up my life was sort of a fairy tale. I used to dance around the house like Belle and flip my hair like Ariel. And I just thought that's what life was about until I was about 12 years old. My parents announced that they were getting a divorce. And I thought, wait a second, that doesn't happen in fairy tales. So I think at that young age, I got really obsessed with marriage. Like I thought, wait a second, like there has to be secrets to living happily ever after, and what are they? Because I would look around and I would see my friends' parents were either divorced or pretty unhappy, or they just didn't interact very much, you know? And so I thought, well, I don't want that for myself. And so I kind of just went on this journey. I was very observant. I had journals as a kid where I would like literally write down the things that mothers and spouses would do that, you know, I thought was really cool. And then I studied family systems and relationships in college through sociology. And then I met my husband. So I have this like living lab of like, you know, what's hard about marriage, what makes it good. And yeah, for the last 7 years, I've been working with couples in relationships. So I feel like now I have like a pretty good lock on happily ever after is possible. And here's the work that you have to do to create that.
I like how you say, yeah, you have a living lab.
Yes. Yes, and
That's the best, right?
my husband and I couldn't be more different. I mean, we're from different areas of the country, where we come from very different religious backgrounds. Our upbringings were
Wow.
extremely different. So we disagree on most things. So we do have to communicate skillfully. Otherwise, things get really messy.
And I totally agree. I have a living lab myself, and we are on total opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
And it's so funny. You're right. If we don't communicate properly, oh my God, it'll be a disaster.
Yeah.
So, what would you say some of the myths that you find that keeps people miserable in marriage?
Yeah, so I've been talking a lot about this one. So let me just I just wrote a book and it's called
Oh,
Bad Marriage Advice: 15 Myths That Will Make You Miserable, literally.
awesome.
And the reason I wrote this book was for my son. My oldest son is 21. He's getting married on my 23rd wedding anniversary. So super cool.
Wow, that is super cool.
And I wanted to give him a gift from my heart. And I just thought, man, there's so much if I could just sit them down for hours on end and like, help them navigate this crazy roller coaster ride that we call marriage, right? And so I was thinking and I was like, okay, they're going to get some bad advice. My husband and I, when we first got married, and I latched onto it. Like if any like older couple that seemed happy, like gave us well-intentioned advice, I was like, yes, all the advice, please, right? But some of it turned out to be really bad and caused a lot of pain in my early marriage. And so I just wanted to help my son and his beautiful bride sidestep a lot of the, kind of crazy things that are so just prevalent in our culture that people like to say. And so I would say one of the worst things, because you asked, is this idea that divorce is not an option. I think a lot of marriage experts talk about this. Like they say, take divorce off the table. The D word is like a swear word. We don't even say it. Like it's not an option. And I think that is crippling to a marriage.
Right. You know what?
You're,
I have to.
I hope that's
No,
not
no, you
something
know
that you
what?
teach.
No, you know what? I have to agree because there are some things that, it's number one is not totally biblical in a sense to me, and because, God called us to, agreement and peace.
Yeah.
And I think that you're right. A lot of people say, I don't do that. I don't divorce ain't
Okay,
off the
good. I
table
don't know
because
your content well
if
enough. And
you're
I was like, oh
if
no.
it's infidelity or abuse,
Right.
those things,
Right.
and the other person don't want to work on the
Yes.
marriage, you at an impasse.
Right. Right. And I definitely don't think like, irreconcilable differences or anything like that. But I do think that when you operate under the idea that divorce is not an option, you lose all motivation to actually work and try at the marriage because you're like, nope, we made vows, we're locked in, we don't even say the D word. So therefore, I don't have to think about my impact on my spouse. I don't have to ever apologize or take accountability for anything that I'm doing. And why would I work to make myself more desirable or to make this marriage a better marriage to be a part of, or to work as a team because my partner is locked in, they can't do anything, right? And
So I'm
so
stuck, right? It's bondage.
exactly. Exactly. And so I do have a client, a husband client who came to me and he's absolutely miserable in his marriage. And I asked him why he hadn't given his wife an ultimatum. She won't come to therapy. She won't do any work. And he said, it's because I need her. Like, I can't bring up divorce because I need her in order to get to heaven. And I thought, oh no, right?
Oh no.
She doesn't have any motivation to work on the marriage. Why would she? Because in her mind, he's stuck. He's locked in. There's nothing he can do about it. So why would she need to, address or confront any of the issues in the marriage? And it's really causing him a lot of turmoil. And not only for the couple, but for their children. They're giving their children a terrible,
Example,
example,
yeah.
yeah, of what a loving marriage where both, parties are really working to make the marriage better. And so what I say is, why not instead of, taking divorce off the table and saying divorce isn't an option, which is a lie, because it's always an option. Either party
Right.
can at any point walk out. So you're deluding yourself if you're saying divorce is not an option. Of course it is.
And then
But
you lose the freedom to be creative, right?
exactly. Why not work to make it a marriage that both parties want to stay in, right? And so
Right.
that's my biggest beef with that advice. And I hear it so often from a lot of experts too.
I've never really heard too many people, I have heard some say divorce is off the table, but that to me is crazy. But I never use that term. Nothing is off the table.
Exactly. And I think it's meant to like, breed commitment. But if you really think about it, I'm like,
That's not commitment, that's bondage.
Oh, you said that so beautifully.
So what's another myth? This is good.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Just
Oh, there.
I ain't gonna let you tell them all because they got to get your book. We got to make it juicy. Yeah.
Well, there's 15, so I don't think we have time for
I know
all of
we ain't
them.
going through 15, but because we want them to buy the book. No.
Here's one that I love to talk about because you hear all the time, if you're going to have a happy marriage, you have to learn to compromise. And I hate that word. Like it makes me
Mm.
bristle. I'm like, compromise? Why would you want to compromise? Why would you want to give up things that are important to you just to keep the peace? No, thank you.
No, because that suppresses your emotions.
Totally. And it also engenders scorekeeping because it's like, well, I gave up the place I wanted to eat last time. So this time you have to, give up. And so you're kind of keeping score, right? Like we both give a little and then neither of us actually get what we want. But here's the cool thing about making decisions when you have two different perspectives. First of all, two different perspectives are awesome. And second of all, there are thousands and thousands, like literally endless options that you can come up with that take both opinions, desires, experiences into account, right? And so I call this collaboration. So I
Yes.
feel like compromise is a big cop out, right? Like, let's say you're trying to decide where to have dinner, and one of you wants Mexican and one of you wants uh, Chinese food. So a compromise would be like, well, let's get Italian, right? And then that's like neither person actually gets what they want, but you compromised. But there's very little communication and like teamwork working together, collaboration there. It's just like, well, here's an option that, neither of us was really excited about. But when you collaborate, it causes you to get more curious. So let's take like a bigger issue, like whether or not to homeschool the children, right? Now, a compromise is going to be hard to come to there, but there's endless options for education. So if you really collaborate, if partner A wants to homeschool the kids and partner B is like, no, public education is the way to go. Now, let's get curious. Why do you feel so strongly about homeschool? And what are the values and the things about homeschool that really, really are important to you? And then you list that out, right? So like I really feel like it's important to have more control over the curriculum. I want my kids to, not be affected by, the scary whatever things that are happening in the public school system. So here are like the two values that are most important to partner A. Now, partner B is like, well, I want to make sure that our children are properly socialized and they, get to encounter a diversity of different people and learn how to, navigate different people with different ideas. So, and also, I want them to be able to participate in sports and like all the things that the public school education, allows for. So now you have what's most important to partner B. Now you can create a scenario where maybe, the core curriculum is worked on at home and then they go to and do maybe their electives in sports or things like that in the public school system. So you have a little bit of both. Or maybe there's an alternative form of schooling that they can have their core curriculum, but they're still around a lot of people and they can participate in different public school sports. So like there is endless options for collaboration, but you have to be willing to get curious about why you feel so strongly about certain things and why your partner feels so strongly about certain things. And then you mesh them together and you come up with a solution that neither of you could have come up with on your own because you needed both partners. That's why marriage is two people, usually two people that are opposite and different, right? Because it's meant to
Yes.
take the best of both of you and create the best scenario for yourselves and your children and your posterity and all of the things, right? So I feel like compromise is a huge cop out and it like eliminates a common thread throughout my entire book is a lot of the bad marriage advice actually stunts communication. Like you have to
Yes.
get better at communication to do the better thing, right?
Because people don't want conflict. But you know what? I love how you said collaboration with curiosity
Yes.
because that is so key because you could cut, I love the fact that uh it definitely opens up your level of creativity in the marriage. Like, oh
Creativity is
my God,
great.
endless options. Like you said, you don't think about those things when you say compromise. That's on point. I like that.
Right. It's kind of a cop out. So my favorite story that I tell in the book is about when, so I grew up in Texas and I grew up eating seafood all the time. And so when my husband and I travel, especially to like a coastal location, I'm like, we ought to get seafood. My husband is like, gross, like pizza and burgers. Like that is his whole palate, right? Like anywhere we go, that's what he wants. And so for our seventh anniversary, we took this trip to San Francisco. And I'm like, oh, San Francisco is literally known for crab legs. Like you go to the wharf, you get to sit in a nice restaurant overlooking the bay. It's like so romantic. And all I wanted was like really great crab. I'm like, my only prerequisite for this trip is I want a fancy dinner at a nice seafood restaurant on the wharf overlooking the water where I can get really good crab legs, right? And my husband is like, what? Nothing about that sounds good, right? All he wanted was a burger. And so here was the collaboration. We went to a really nice fancy restaurant. My husband walked across the street, got In and Out, literally like a burger and fries and a shake and brought it into the very nice restaurant. Well, I was mortified. And the waitress was like, "Oh my gosh, sir, you cannot bring that in here." And he's like, "Well, I want to eat with my wife. It's our 7th anniversary." And so she laughed and she went and got him a really nice plate to put his burger and fries on and like one of those
I
nice
love it.
glasses from the bar to pour his milkshake in. And we sat there. He had his burger and I had my crab legs and we had a wonderful dinner.
That's what I call collaboration.
Exactly. It was wonderful. Everybody got exactly what they wanted. Now, a compromise might have been like we could go to a chain restaurant that serves burgers and cheap seafood, but it's not on the
Right.
wharf.
But it's not the same.
It's not the
The
same.
experience is not the same. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And who
Well, we could
cares
go
what
get
those people,
seafood. Well, we get seafood. We can get a burger in the afternoon and seafood at night. And you like both one somebody gonna be miserable in that setting.
exactly. There's hundreds of ways to make that work for both of you. Why not go to 2 restaurants, right? He can
Right.
maybe go eat in and out and then have dessert while I'm eating my crab legs. Like there's tons of ways to
It's
work that
tons
out.
of ways to work it
You
out.
just
Yeah.
you just have to get curious and creative, like you said.
That's true. And both parties have to participate in the collaboration for it
Yes.
to work, not one person. And
So
somebody can't take over the collaboration.
so that brings me to another horrible advice that I know you've heard a million times. Makes me just like fire shoot out of my eyes. And it's that happy wife, happy life.
That
How
one
many
right there. Oh my God, I hate it. It makes me cringe.
right?
It is the worst advice you can ever have. Oh my
I
God, that
just
one,
want to be
that
like,
one keep
stop
that one
it.
keep a lot of people in bondage. And it's not even biblical. But go ahead.
Yeah, agreed. It's literally the worst advice. Why would you have a marriage set on the precedent that only one person gets what they want? Like what?
Exactly. Crazy. My husband and I talk about that all the time.
It's
When we
terrible.
it makes us cringe.
That's right. That's right. I mean, and that is a huge cop out, obviously. Like, oh, I don't have to give my perspective or my opinion or anything like this because what she says goes, right? If we want to stay, if we want to be happily married, we just do what she says, right? It's terrible.
And
It's
it
where
also
like the old ball and
yeah,
chain.
it breeds resentment.
It's horrible. Eventually, the husband's just going to completely withdraw and
Oh my
like,
goodness. It's horrible. Yeah, it's
right?
horrible.
That's going to make you miserable for sure.
That is, I love it. I love it. Now you make everybody curious about the book. So that's exciting. And don't forget to send me the link so I can put it in the comments so people can get the book. You have so many good ones. I love it because I totally agree on it. Not because
Yes.
I agree, but it's like, oh my God. One of the things I did never call it was collaboration because my husband and I, when we make a decision, we come together and it goes into like our collaboration is okay, let's talk about it. We go in, we give scenarios, we go into heated fellowship. I call it heated fellowship.
Oh,
And
I
then
like that.
we go into, okay, so what do you think about this? What do you think about that? We go through all these scenarios and then we like, what is your main goal for each person? And then we make our decision. Oh, and then we go in prayer and then we make our decision. But
Yeah.
it's so funny how we collaborate though. It's always a heated. I expect the heated fellowship because we don't argue. It just get heated a little bit, but it's not like calling. It's like no, you ain't listening. Hear me out. Okay, I'm gonna hear you out. What you trying to say? It goes into that communication. It's so cool,
Yes.
and I love the fact that we can be, transparent without losing credibility. That's our biggest thing, So I like that.
Yeah, it
But I
requires
like
some
the
skill.
collaboration. I
It
like the
requires some skill.
collaboration though. That's big. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
I love you added creativity to it because collaboration is just curiosity and creativity in motion.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's nothing worse than not having that freedom to be who you are, right? And marriage, like you said, one person come in, the other person come in, two different lenses automatically.
Yeah. How
So we
lucky
have
are you that you get two?
yeah, because you get a total open, like playground.
Yeah. And how cool is it that, like, especially when you're making decisions that benefit your family, right? It's like we both participated in this, whether it's like your DNA or not. I mean, even if you adopted the child, like you both are responsible for this child, right? And so how cool is it that how you raise them is part you and part your spouse, right? Like it's
Yes.
not meant to be like that whole happy wife, happy life. It's like, oh, she's in charge of raising the kids and, whatever, like all those silly, silly ideas. It's like, no, you both have really important viewpoints when it comes to what's best for
Everything.
everything,
Yeah.
the money, the children, how often you see the in-laws, all of it.
I love it. I love it. This is so good. So tell so what is your onboarding process
For to see
for
couples.
clients?
Yeah. Well, right. I have had a wait list in the past, but right now I have openings. So, if you wanted to work with me, it's just we have like a introductory call that's complimentary for 30 minutes, and I just get to know your situation and what you're looking to improve. A lot of the couples I work with are on the brink of divorce and they're looking for like kind of that last ditch effort. But if your area of struggle is something that's outside of my scope, then in that 30-minute consult, I'll help you find somebody that can work with you really well. So uh, and then we decide if we're a good fit to work together. Then I see my clients usually once a week for 3 to 6 months. And after that, it's usually like spaces out to once a month and then once a year check-ins. I don't do the type of therapy where you're seeing me for years and years and years on end. You come in every week with all of your grievances and we just go through it. Like I use relational life therapy is what I'm trained in. And it's a quick modality. So if you're not making progress as a couple, I'll usually pass you on to somebody else.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't want to have you for years. I do 6 to 12 weeks and that's it. That's
Yeah,
it. We do that and that's it. And I don't like you. I mean, you have to show up because I can't want it more than you, right?
exactly. And that's what's really difficult, I think,
Mhm.
about what we
I
do
think
is
so too.
we get to know these couples and you're like, you, at the end of the day, I go back to my happy marriage, right? And so like you can choose to do the work or not choose to do the work. Of course, I want you to do the work, but it's
Right.
totally up to you, right? I mean, I go back to my life either way.
Right. And so so do you take any individuals or it's just couples?
Sometimes it will be an individual that wants to do therapy, and I will work with them for a short period of time, constantly working on how to invite the spouse. But I do feel like the work we do requires both partners at least to come to the table. They don't have to be happy
Yes.
about it. It's like I do have a
Right.
lot of spouses who come in begrudgingly, but they have to at least come to the table. So I will work with an individual for a couple of sessions
Sessions.
before, I'm not interested in doing individual counseling. I work with
Okay.
couples. So, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, because I know when you do, it's good that you do that because you actually the spouse is actually in the room
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah.
But when you get home, your change more than likely will bring them therapy.
Yes, exactly. And we talk about ways to give them ultimatums,
Hmm.
right? Like the whole divorce is off the table. Like we've got to cut that out first thing because I do help my clients make ultimatums. Like I teach them how to skillfully invite their spouses to therapy. So we
Right.
start with, hey, I found a coach that I really want to work with. I'd love for you to join us. My next appointment is this. I really want you to be there. And then showing up like every single day with that same request, right? And if that doesn't work, like it this is controversial, but I do coach my clients to be like, if you're not willing to work with me on the marriage and therapy, I'm not going to be willing to sleep in the same room with you anymore. And eventually, this marriage, if you're not willing to work on it, isn't going to work for me anymore, right? And so
Right.
at some point, we make it uncomfortable enough that the other spouse will at least come. But if not, I usually pass those clients on actually.
Oh, okay.
Because you have to have a client that's willing to um, put the marriage on the line for a better. So it's a concept by David Schnarch that I like. You have to be willing to tolerate pain for growth, discomfort
Yes.
for growth, right? And
Discomfort
so
for growth. Yes.
exactly. So if both
That's life.
exactly, and if both partners aren't willing to work at it, it's not a really workable case.
Yeah, you have to, both parties have to work. And yeah, definitely, most definitely. I love it. I love
And
it.
you can
So,
create some of that discomfort by saying, like, I'm not going to be willing to make dinner. I'm not going to be willing to sleep in the same room. I'm not going to be willing to go to your, business events anymore. Like, literally, you either show up and work on this marriage with me, or I'm not going to make your life comfortable anymore.
and they have to be willing to trust the process.
Mhm.
That's the key. They got to be willing to trust the process, but that's what we do. We teach them to trust the process.
Yes.
As long as they trust the process, they can work. I love what you do, and I'm excited. What's the name of the book again? 15.
It's called Bad Marriage Advice. That's all you really have to know. The
Oh, bad
tagline might
marriage
change. Yes,
advice.
but just
Okay,
bad marriage
bad
advice.
marriage advice. Well, you know what? Check out her book, Bad Marriage Advice, which she already talked about three huge, myths
What's the
that
worst marriage advice you've ever heard, Martha?
the worst marriage advice. Hmm. Just don't say nothing.
Yeah. Oh, like
What?
the don't
Because
sweat the
you're
small
the
stuff.
you're the woman. Don't say nothing. What?
That's
That
a
was
good
the
one.
worst. You're the woman. You submit to everything was the
Oh,
worst. Yeah, that
I
was the
do have a
worst.
chapter that the wife's job is to keep her husband satisfied. Ooh, that
Yeah.
one. Ooh, that one gets me. Get on my soapbox for that one.
That's like happy. That's almost that's the
It's
same
the
as
other
happy
one,
wife,
right? Yeah.
happy life. And so yeah, that
How
that
about
that was the
happy
yeah.
spouse, happy house? That's a good one.
Oh, and so sometimes they don't understand the art of submission.
Mm.
And
Right.
that's the problem. That becomes a big problem because you're not meant to be a doormat because you both bring so much to the table that it's incredible when you put it together. It's like a piece of puzzle that come together so amazing. And I think that people really struggle with bringing the ideas because they suppress them, and
Mhm.
we don't want that. We
Yeah.
want you to be able
That's
to
not what
express your
God meant
emotion.
for,
There's
right?
nothing wrong with the way you feel. But that was the worst. That was the worst advice because in the Christian world, sometimes they put it that way, and that's not good at all because that's not what the Bible say
Right.
or mean
Exactly.
in that
Really
context.
good.
And so a lot of times things are taken out of context that we have to really be careful with. So it's good that your son will really love you for that.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely some controversial ones. I'm sure there's going to be people that read the book and go, I don't know about this one, but
I mean, yeah,
willing to
in
put
our
it out there.
practice, we do have that. Yeah, we do have I don't never even talk about divorce. I want to see when my people come see me, I want to know what's going on in the marriage because I see root causes and I'm like, oh, okay. But, um, the, the things that keep them together, those myths are there.
Hmm.
Those underlying agreements that you make with these sayings like happy life, happy wife, all of those breed behavior that's not warranted to the marriage.
So true. So
And
true.
so
And
that's what
yeah, it makes people lazy and non-communicative,
and not
right?
accountable and not accountable. So that is huge. That is
Yeah.
huge. So how can people reach you?
So my website is just my name, monicatanner.com. The book website is not quite ready yet. So if you go to it right now, you're probably going to get a like under construction, whatever.
Okay.
But very soon you'll be able to get on the wait list for the book, and it's
Oh, the wait
badmarriageadvice.com.
list.
Yeah.
A wait list for the book. Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. It comes
What
out in August. So we're a little ways
Oh,
away, but it's written, it's in editing, and it's being designed. So we are doing a proper launch in August.
nice. So if you're looking for a relationship coach, reach out to Monica Tanner. She has a great book that's coming out, Bad Marriages. And if you feel like this podcast was wonderful or needed for someone else to hear, please do share, subscribe, and share, because I always have a lot of amazing people on the show. So I just want to thank you, Monica, for coming on, and just thank my audience for listening, and have a very happy Monday. We are signing off.
It's your time to shine. Your journey's a chart. Coach Rice